This is not just another retro comeback story. Because if what's quietly circulating inside the industry is even half true, Honda may be preparing to revive one of the most respected naked motorcycles ever built, the CB1300 Super Four. And this time, it wouldn't just be nostalgia. It could be Honda's most strategic move in the modern retro war. For years, the CB1300 SF has lived in a strange place, revered by enthusiasts, practically unknown to younger riders, and officially discontinued in most global markets. But recently, something changed. Design cues, engine platform shifts, and a very specific gap in Honda's current lineup that suddenly makes this bike's return logical. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the 2026 CB1300 SF isn't just possible, it might be inevitable. Before we talk about 2026, we need to understand why the CB1300 SF matters at all. When Honda introduced the CB1300 Super Four in the late 1990s, it wasn't meant to be flashy. It wasn't meant to chase trends. It was built around a single idea: create the ultimate big-bore naked bike that felt mechanical, muscular, and honest. The kind of motorcycle that delivered power without electronics getting in the way, and character without pretending to be something else. Over time, the CB1300 SF became a cult classic, not because it was the fastest, not because it was the most advanced, but because it felt like the last true expression of Honda's old-school engineering philosophy: a large displacement inline four, upright ergonomics, and timeless proportions that aged gracefully instead of becoming outdated. In Japan especially, the CB1300 became something close to sacred. Riders didn't see it as a retro bike, they saw it as continuity, the living descendant of the CB750, CB900, and CB1100 lineage. A motorcycle that quietly represented everything Honda stood for before ride modes and TFT dashboards took over. And that's exactly why its disappearance left a vacuum. When Honda phased out the CB1300 SF in most markets, they didn't replace it with another classic naked. Instead, the lineup shifted toward modern platforms, the CB1000R, CB650R, and adventure-focused machines. Technically excellent bikes, but something was missing. There was no longer a heavyweight, air-cooled looking, upright inline four naked motorcycle that felt like a mechanical object rather than a digital product. And that gap is now becoming impossible to ignore. Here's where things get interesting. Honda's current retro strategy has been very deliberate. The CB1100 revived heritage. The CB650R modernized the naked formula. And more recently, the rumored return of models like the CB754 and CB404 suggests Honda isn't just experimenting, they're rebuilding an entire legacy lineup from the middle outward. But notice what's missing. There is no true flagship Netro Naked in Honda's modern range. No big-bore muscle standard that sits above the CB650R but below full sport bikes. Something with presence, simplicity, and authority. That role used to belong to the CB1300 SF. And if Honda is serious about reclaiming dominance in the retro and neoclassic space, especially as rivals like Kawasaki continue to succeed with the Z900 RS and Z650 RS, leaving that segment uncontested no longer makes strategic sense. Which raises the real question: why now? Because the market is changing. Riders in their 30s and 40s aren't chasing race replicas anymore. They're chasing experience, connection, machines that feel emotional, mechanical, and timeless, not disposable tech products. And Honda knows this. That's why the CB1300 SF returning in 2026 isn't about reviving the past. It's about reclaiming relevance in a segment that Honda itself helped create. Now let's talk about what a modern CB1300 SF would realistically look like. Not as fantasy, but as logical evolution. First, the engine. Honda already has several proven inline-four platforms in the leader class, but none are tuned for the kind of low-end torque, smooth delivery, and relaxed character that defined the CB1300. A modern revival wouldn't chase peak horsepower numbers. Instead, it would focus on usable torque, mechanical feel, and long-distance comfort, something closer to a gentleman's muscle bike than a street fighter. Expect smooth throttle response, a wide power band, and gearing designed for effortless cruising rather than track dominance. Second, the chassis. The original CB1300 SF was heavy but stable, the kind of bike that felt planted at speed and confident in corners without being nervous. A 2026 version would likely retain that planted character while shedding weight through modern materials, improved frame design, and updated suspension geometry. Not razor sharp, not nervous, just solid. And that's important, because in the retro heavyweight segment, stability and confidence matter more than lap times. Third, the design. This is where Honda would be extremely careful. A CB1300 SF cannot look futuristic, it cannot look overly minimalist, and it definitely cannot lose its silhouette. Expect a round LED headlamp, not a flat disc, but a deep housing with classic proportions. A long, muscular fuel tank with subtle knee indents, a broad seat that prioritizes comfort over aggression, and a tail section that feels substantial instead of skeletal. So the real question isn't whether Honda can bring back the CB1300 SF. It's whether the market is ready for a motorcycle that prioritizes feel over flash, balance over bravado, and presence over performance numbers. And judging by what's happening across the industry, that moment may finally be here. Now, I want to hear from you. If Honda revealed the CB1300 Super Four tomorrow, modernized, refined, and true to its heritage, would you actually buy it? Or do you think this legend is better left in the past? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see what Honda might do next in the CB Revival lineup, you won't want to miss the next episode, because this might only be the beginning.